Hey, this is Drew from Mission RV Services, and we're up on another roof. But today we're going to be talking about something we've talked about in the past, about cleaning your AC units and how important that is for optimal air conditioning performance to keep you cool in the summertime. But today we're going to talk about what we do for our customers. So we're going to add a little bit to it from a video we did about a year ago, which is just basic cleaning your AC coils and making sure you have everything buttoned up. Today we are going to be working on two Coleman Mach ACs, but we're going to take it a step further. So we're of course going to clean the compressor coil and the evaporator coil, but what we provide for our customers and what you can do yourself if you're comfortable with it is we are going to check our capacitors and we're going to check our compressor. And what we do this for is each one has ratings and your ratings may differ, so you have to refer to your personal capacitors and your compressor to get those ratings. But what we're going to do today is just show you what we're looking for when we check those. And then obviously you'll have to get into your AC to find out what those parameters are for your particular application. So what we're going to need to do this is a drill, screwdriver, something to get the screws off so you can pull this cover off of here and expose the inner workings of the air conditioner. You're going to need some type of a spray foam HVAC cleaner. We recommend that you do not spray water into your coils or anything. There are electronics in here that are covered up. Yes, your ACs are on a roof. They're exposed on the sides to the elements, but you don't want to start shooting water into those coils. You're going to end up getting water down in your coach. You know, the less water you have to spray around this, the better. So HVAC cleaner, you spray it on, it lets it do the work, and you're good to go. And then you can just use some towels to dry up any excess. Also, you're going to want some type of a brush to lightly brush the coils and clean heavier dirt off of them. And we also recommend using the cap that comes with the HVAC cleaner. So you're going to need your meter, and that is for checking the microfarads of the capacitors, as well as doing some ohms resistance shorting tests on your compressor. So without further ado, let's get started. So now that we have the cover off, these are my two favorite tools. This is a brush you can get off the old Jungle website. You can get like a 6-pack of them for about $7, but they have a good firm bristle and they fit very well into the coils. And you can brush up, you can clean out, you can clean your evaporator coil trays out. So the evaporator coil trays are where the condensation goes to run it off the roof. It's very important to keep those cleaned out. This brush here is the cap that comes on the cleaner. It's a little bit stiffer for getting more hard to clean things, but you have to be very careful on these coils. They're very thin aluminum and you're just brushing lightly. You're just removing debris. You're not like digging in and scrubbing with it. So very important to keep it clean, but also very important not to damage your coils. The goal is to straighten any bent fins, but not really do any damage. This particular one is close to dogwood trees, so this thing got hit this summer pretty hard. Airflow is hugely diminished, so we're going to help fix that. So the tool, like we talked about, the tools, the brushes, you're going to need a volt ohm meter of your choice. We like the Fluke 325, but there's different preferences and brands out there. You choose what you're comfortable with if you're going to do this. When you pull that cover off, you're going to identify your compressor location. You're going to identify your fan because you're going to want to check and make sure things look good on that. This particular unit is installed with Micro Air Easy Starts. On the Coleman, the cover for the capacitors is over here. Dometics would be more up on the top. There, when you pull the foam off on a Dometic, there would be a casing in there that you would remove the cover to expose your capacitors. This is what a capacitor looks like for everybody that doesn't know. These pull a charge in, so you have to be very careful when you take these off. You're going to want something insulated, and you're going to want to short these contacts out before you start touching these. And you're basically just putting something across that and you're removing that stored energy out of this, because this will get you a jolt and you don't want that. So before you even pull it out of the cabinet, you're going to go in there. Once you have power off to the unit, very important, and you're going to short that out, and then it's ready to check. So let's start, before we do the coils, let's do a quick check on this particular capacitor. So your capacitors are going to vary, so don't go by what we're checking today, but go by what the label says. So this particular one is 60 microfarads UF plus or minus 5%. So we're looking, when we check this, we're going to be looking for microfarads of about 60, no more than 5% above 60, no lower than 5% above 60. If we're within that range, then we know we're good. So on your meter, you're going to select the symbol here. It kind of looks like a flat arrow and a curved arrow smashing into each other. And one won the fight and the other one lost. But so we have our 0, 0 here. We're going to put one contact on one side, one on the other. We'll just like this. And we are at 60.3 microfarads. So this is a good capacitor. So now what we would do normally is we have a sheet we bring up here with us and we start documenting those things. This is a start capacitor. This particular unit also has a fan capacitor, and we'll do the exact same check on that. Some of these will have 3 contacts on top. They have a start run capacitor with a fan capacitor built into that also. But this particular one here is just a single use. So, but that's how you do a quick check on capacitors. All capacitors check the same way, but the importance is that you're checking what your rating is for your particular capacitor. If it's bad or it's below that 5% or above that 5%, then you know it's time to get a new one. That capacitor is starting to fail on you. Okay, next we are going to, we're going to check the windings in our compressor. Again, like the capacitors, compressors are different for each one. So on the compressor, you're going to have a label on the side. It's going to give you all your data. If you can't find the label on here, you're going to refer back to, for this particular one, I'd refer to Airxcel. I would give them the model and serial number, and then I would get my capacitor or my compressor information from them directly. This particular one has a heat pump installed, and the label is covered up. So we've gone ahead and we've checked with the manufacturer, and we have all of our information on load rated amps and our run amps and everything else. So, but what we're going to do right now is we're going to check the windings on this. So we're going to go to our ohms. We're looking for resistance, and we're going to look for our common, and we're going to check from common to start. We have 1.7, and then we're going to do common to run, 0.6. And now when we check start and run together, we should total that same amount. So we had 1.7. All right. 1.7, and then 0.6. And then when we do these two together, we have 2.4. So we'll total those up, and we're looking for a value point that the two are very close to equal, if not exactly equal. So these are, and we're looking pretty good. And so we know our windings are good now, but we also do a short test. So what we'll do is we'll go to our start side here, and then we're going to put a scratch into the casing of the compressor so we get past the paint. And what we're looking for here is we don't want any continuity. We don't want to hear anything. So right here we're good. That means our windings are good in the compressor and we don't have any shorting going on. So we have a good compressor here. So those are your basic checks. So we've talked about checking capacitors. We've talked about doing performance checks on here. Once we got completed, we would hook up our amp clamp and we would check our load rated amps. If you have a meter that does N-rush, that's even better. You can check that first hit of total amps when you go through. We don't have that, so what we're looking for is just our running amperage, and we're going to validate our amps to make sure we're within our parameters based on the manufacturer specifications when we start up. All right, so we've done our capacitor check now. We've checked our compressor. We're in good shape there. Our next step is we're going to clean this filthy condenser coil here. So usually what we do is we start with a brush. As you can see, we have a lot of blockage. All of this is affecting airflow. So the less air we can get to flow over these coils, the worse the performance is going to be for the AC. So, and you can see this is a blanket. So we want to get all that off there. Lightly brushing, like we talked about. And we're just trying to get all the gunk and junk out of here before we use our HVAC spray. And we're just barely hitting this with the brush. And you can see it's doing its job. It's taking everything off of there just like we want it to. And we're also exposing some coil damage issues here. That could be from covers, could be from branches, could be from all sorts of things. Birds, you name it. We find all kinds of things in these. We find a lot of wasp nests, birds nests, depending on the time of the year. Stink bugs, mud daubers, you name it. They love AC units for some reason. Now, we're going to just brush straight up, and we're going to keep getting this excess dirt and debris off of here. And how long do you do this for? As long as it takes. Sometimes you can clean these very quickly. Other times you need to spend a little time, and you just continually keep brushing it until the coils get clean. And we're also, at this point, we're brushing up. We're trying to start straightening coils. Best we can. So on some of these harder ones, I'm going to take this cap and just lightly go in the grooves here. See if we can get those a little straighter. Again, this is very light. We're not digging in, we're not pressing hard. We're just running this into the fins and just pulling straight up. Never go side to side, always up, straight motions. Now we've got all our heavier debris out of here. We've cleaned up. We've brushed out our trays and tracks. We've checked this side. Obviously we've done our electrical checks now. Inside the fan here, I've also looked at the coil on the inside and check that for dirt. Most of your dirt gets caught on this side of the coil though. The air gets drawn in, so here's where it gets packed up. But the next thing we're going to use is we're going to use a foaming cleaner. It's a heavy-duty detergent. This one's made by Frost King, but there's different brands out there. Find the one of your preference. This is a low VOC formula. It does have an odor. I always kind of equate it to lemon pledge. It's a very heavy chemical smell. There is another type that we can use on the evaporator coil because this is where most of the air gets into the cabin. That's a little less smelly, but it's a lot more expensive. If I know a customer is not really going to be in the coach for maybe a week or so, I will just use this on both coils. But that odor does clear out very quickly. So, don't be afraid to use this for both sets of coils. It does the exact same job. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shake this up very well. And then we're going to shoot right into the coil in a pattern back and forth until we get the whole coil covered. This has a very strong spray, so it will go right through that coil. And as it's doing its job, it's going to be a heavy white foam at first, and then it's just going to dissipate. And as it dissipates, it's just cleaning that out and clearing it. And it's going to increase all our airflow here. We've got most of our coil straightened out. I see a couple more little spots here that we'll try to hit real quick, just to get those as straight as we can. Don't be afraid to be generous with this. Remember, this is the key to airflow for your coach or your trailer. So don't be light with it. We always expect to probably use almost a can to clean both front and back coils. So you know, for us, the customer's paying for this. They want a nice clean coil. They want better airflow. So this is important. Now on this side, on the fan side, it's very hard to get into here. We'll try to spray this area as best as possible, but it's very hard to get any kind of penetration on this side, but we'll do our best. So when taking the cover off for the evaporator, very, very important, gloves, protective gear. So the reason is this sheet metal is very sharp. I'm afraid to say I've learned that the hard way. And you don't want to bleed on a customer's unit or your own. So make sure you're wearing your gloves, cut gloves, mechanics gloves, just something that if you brush up against this, you're not going to tear your fingers up, because this will slice you like a hot knife. So always be very careful. Okay, so now we've cleaned our condenser coil. Now we're going to move into the evaporator coil. This is the coil that directly puts air into the rig. So this one here, this coach is a couple years old. We've cleaned this before, but this is just over the past 6 months. So it's gathered more construction material out of the ceiling. It has condensation, so it turns that condensation into a mucky mess on this coil. So a couple things we're going to want to do on here, because this one accesses the cabin. We usually use either a regular towel or just some shop towels. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to cover this hole up here, because we don't want any of this foam, or we're trying to eliminate debris getting into the coach as best we can. So we'll cover that trap up, and now we're ready to start brushing and cleaning, and hopefully we can catch most all the debris on the towel. So another thing here, we talked about condensation trays. Now that's these trays right here. These trays will fill up, and then they'll exit out down and out of the AC unit off on the roof. So we definitely want to make sure these trays are cleaned out. So same thing, you're just going to go in, you're going to brush them out, and just make sure they're clear. And that keeps the water from going into the coach. Now we've gone through our steps. We have checked our capacitors. We've checked our compressor. And again, remember with capacitor and compressors, every unit, assume they're different. If your buddy's up and he's cleaning his AC and he says capacitors are this and this, and you go up and check to that and you're way off, it's because their capacitors are different. We can take the exact same Coleman Mach, but it's a different year model, and those capacitors could be different. Their configuration could be different. The covers for compressors. So on this particular coach, we have two Coleman Machs, a Mach 15 and a Mach 3. That one has a 4-bolt top cover. This one has a 2-bolt top cover, 2-bolt bottom cover. It's a newer unit. So this one has a heat pump. That one doesn't. Capacitors are going to be different on both of these units. Compressors are going to be different on both of these units. So it's important when you're checking the electrical features that you're checking based on specifications to that unit. Very important. If this is something you're not comfortable doing as a DIYer or an owner, and you're hiring somebody to clean these AC units because you know the importance of it in keeping airflow good, you're going to want to make sure that the person you hire to clean your AC units is doing these checks. If they're just running by and they're just cleaning coils, that's going to give you some benefit, but you don't know if your parts are failing. So that's why we only do performance cleanings for Mission RV Services, but we recommend these to everybody that is a client of ours. Even if they're not a client of ours, why we're doing this video, because this is so important to keeping your rig cool, to keeping airflow going, to keep this unit healthy. That's why you want to check these capacitors and these compressors. You know, keeping the coils clean is highly important, but making sure your electrical features are doing their job and they're doing it consistently year over year. Why not hire a company that's going to give you a report that you can compare year to year to say, hey, my capacity levels are reducing, or my compressor is not maintaining performance as it should. So that's why we do this. That's the importance of this. So, you know, talking about this and using a meter, it's lost on some people. We get that. There was a point where it was lost on us. But now we know the importance, and we know the importance to our customers and clients of doing these checks for them. So if you're not comfortable doing this, you're not comfortable with electricity or using a meter, we get it. That's what we're here for. That's what other certified techs are for. If you need a certified tech to do your cleaning, look at the rvtaa.org and you can find a qualified tech in your area. That's the basic cleaning. We're going to get wrapped up here on this today and finish these air conditioners up. We look forward to giving you more videos. It's a little more in depth than we normally go, but we felt it was very important. And we know we've got a lot of comments and questions on our past AC cleaning, but now that we've kind of stepped it up a little bit, which has been great for our clients and ourselves, but it's also going to be great for you to make sure you're doing these performance checks when you're doing your AC cleaning. If this was helpful to you, hit the subscribe button, click that notification bell so you get notified about other videos like this. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.